the sleek four-seater that flies like a glider but cruises like a Cirrus. It's fast, efficient, and beautiful, and stuck in limbo. So why does everyone still want the Pipistrel Panthera? And here's where it gets even more exciting. The Panthers isn't just another small plane. It's like the love child of a racing sailplane and a touring airplane. On paper, it's a four-seat ultralight that promised nearly 200 knots of true airspeed, which is jaw-dropping for an aircraft in this category. Pilots immediately noticed the efficiency: 14 to 15 gallons per hour at cruise, which for a four-seater is basically unheard of. That means long legs without constant pit stops, whether you're hopping between regional airports or stretching out across a few hundred nautical miles. It's built like a dream, too. A full carbon composite structure that makes it light, strong, and just beautiful to look at. The marketing touted 1,000 nautical mile range and a ceiling of 25,000 feet, giving it a big plane vibe without the jet-like operating costs. And then there's the ballistic parachute, completely integrated into the structure from the start, because safety was never an afterthought. Wait, you're watching right now but not subscribed to the channel? Go ahead and smash that subscribe button so we can move on with the video. You did? Okay, cool. Now back to the planes. They even promised MOGAS capability, something most competitors can't touch, letting you run on automotive fuel if you wanted. Combine that with its sailplane DNA, long, sleek wings, and Cirrus-class speed, and pilots were instantly intrigued. It wasn't just fast, it felt smart, efficient, and modern. Touring pilots saw a plane that could actually change the way they flew, all while being striking to the eye. You could feel the buzz before anyone even climbed aboard. And this part blew my mind. Pipistrel didn't start with big budgets or fancy hangars. Back in the Yugoslav era, they were a tiny outfit building ultralights and motor gliders. But even then, the planes punched well above their weight. They dominated performance competitions, quietly beating bigger, better-funded rivals. Pilots remember the Virus and Sinus microlights for their efficiency and speed, machines that just shouldn't have been as capable as they were. Then came the Alpha Trainer, a school plane that could do more with less fuel than almost anything else in Europe. And if that wasn't impressive enough, Pipistrel was already tinkering with electric aircraft when most manufacturers were still thinking diesel engines were the future. This was a company willing to experiment, push limits, and sometimes fly where others wouldn't. Founder Ivo Boscarol had an ambition that matched the aircraft: take a small Slovenian company and aim squarely at the giants. The Panthera wasn't just a new model, it was a leap from microlights and trainers to a serious Cirrus and Bonanza competitor. For a company of this size, in a country that isn't exactly known as a global aviation hub, this was audacious. But Pipistrel had always thrived on bold moves, and the Panthera was the ultimate statement. We can build a world-class aeroplane, and we don't need decades of pedigree to prove it. Wait, you're watching right now but not subscribed to the channel. Go ahead and smash that subscribe button so we can move on with the video. You did? Okay, cool. Now back to the planes. Pipistrel was playing small. They dropped the Panthera at Aero Friedrichshafen in April 2012. And this wasn't a concept on a poster. It was a real airframe, with retractable gear, a fully integrated ballistic parachute, and all the bells and whistles pilots dream about. No vaporware, no promises on paper. The buzz was immediate. Aviation media were scribbling notes, taking pictures and whispering, "This actually flies?" Because it did. On April 4th, 2013, the Panthera took its first flight. A smooth 54-minute maiden hop that proved the concept worked. Test pilots were smiling, engineers were grinning, and the crowd watching could feel that something special had landed. Prototype performance lined up with the specs, and the plane didn't just meet expectations, it teased what might come next. The combination of speed, efficiency, and modern engineering made people stop and think, could a small Slovenian team really take on the giants of general aviation? At that moment, the Panthera wasn't just a plane. It was a statement that Pipistrel was here to play, and they weren't afraid to shake things up. And then the dream hit its first real snag. Pipistrel had picked the Lycoming IO390 for the Panthera, a light, proven engine that looked perfect on paper. The big selling point? MOGAS compatibility. Pilots loved the idea of running on automotive fuel, keeping operating costs down while maintaining performance. But when the certification process dug in, the numbers weren't as pretty. Detonation margins on automotive fuel didn't meet ESA's strict standards across the full power and temperature range. Lycoming wasn't ready to certify the engine for MOGAS at those compression ratios. That put Pipistrel in a tough spot. Stick with avgas only and lose a major marketing advantage, or pivot to a different engine? They chose the latter. Enter the IO540, a 6-cylinder powerhouse, but heavier. With about 41 kilograms more up front, suddenly the plane's balance and math had changed. The maximum takeoff weight had to climb to roughly 3,000 pounds just to claw back useful load. Every calculation had to be revisited. Center of gravity, pitch inertia, structural load paths, flutter behavior, everything. Cooling had to be revalidated, and airflow tested across all altitudes and temperatures. Performance numbers needed redemonstration. Charts had to be rewritten, and the fuel system expanded to about 91 gallons, 83 usable. The paperwork pile? Let's just say it grew into a small mountain. Engineers who once tweaked designs in hours now spend days, weeks, even months confirming details that had been nearly settled. Each change rippled through the program, slowing momentum and testing patience. It was a reality check. Even a plane that looked perfect on paper could get tangled in certification bureaucracy. And every smart engineering decision came with a cascade of new challenges. For pilots watching, the Panthera still looked beautiful. But behind the scenes, a storm of work and compromise had begun. Just when it seemed they were climbing out of one hurdle, a new one appeared. In 2017, ESA rewrote the CS23 certification rules, shifting from prescriptive checks to a performance-based system. The goal was flexibility, but for Pipistrel, it was a nightmare. Everything they had tested and documented needed reinterpretation. Paperwork had to be redone, flight data reanalyzed, and structural proofs resubmitted. Delays piled up, costs climbed, and momentum slipped away. A program that had once been tight and ambitious suddenly felt like wading through quicksand. Engineers were exhausted, decisions slowed, and every small change triggered a new round of verification. Fatigue set in, not just physically, but for the project's morale. The Panthera could still fly beautifully, but certification wasn't just about performance anymore. It was now about navigating shifting rules, demonstrating compliance in ways that hadn't existed when the plane was first conceived. And for pilots eagerly watching from the outside, it must have looked maddening. A plane that worked flawlessly, yet still wasn't officially ready for them to buy. And this is where the Panthera really turns heads. Because on paper it's one thing, but in real-world flying, it delivers. Against a normally aspirated Cirrus SR22, the Panthera cruises around 194 knots true airspeed at 75% power while sipping just 14.8 gallons per hour. The SR22? In the same altitude bands, you're looking at 171 to 180 knots on 15 to 18 gallons per hour. That's a serious speed per gallon advantage for the Panthera, especially if you're flying frequent regional trips. Now, the SR22T with its turbocharger is a different story, but only up high. Push above 18,000 feet, and the turbo holds full manifold pressure, stretching cruise speed to 210 to 213 knots. That comes at a price: oxygen requirements, extra complexity, and managing heat and engine stress. Down below 12,000 feet, where most of us actually fly, the Panthera dominates. You get nearly the same speed as the SR22T at a fraction of the fuel burn, without worrying about oxygen or turbo heat. AOPA testing confirmed what many pilots suspected. The brochure numbers are optimistic, but even adjusted for real-world conditions, the Panthera shines. At economy power, you still see high 180 knots true airspeed and push it to 75%. And you're right near 194 knots true airspeed, burning less than competitors for the same or better speed. In everyday cruising altitudes between 8,000 and 12,000 feet, the Panthera's efficiency and performance make it a practical, exciting option. Fast, economical, and pilot-friendly.
Clean aerodynamic. Cruise speed 200 knots on a 200 horsepower engine. The prototype is powered by a conventional fuel-injected IO390 by Lycoming, but we are also planning the hybrid and electro versions.
And here's the part pilots really care about: how much you can actually carry and how far you can go. In standard configuration, the Panthera has 55.4 usable gallons of fuel. That leaves about 770 pounds for passengers and baggage, giving a total useful load of just over 1,100 pounds. Realistically, that's enough for two 200-pound adults and 2 kids with luggage, or 3 lighter adults with a couple of bags. Perfect for regional touring without compromises. It's not a long-range tanker like the SR22T, but that's not its mission. Optional long-range tanks exist in experimental examples, but for everyday use, the Panthera shines on 400 to 700 nautical mile legs. And the sweet spot? Oxygen-free altitudes. You get speed, efficiency, and comfort without worrying about supplemental oxygen or turbo complications. This is a plane built for realistic, regional flying, where speed per gallon, efficiency, and modern handling matter more than chasing top-end altitudes. It's smart, practical, and designed to fit the way people actually fly. Fast trips between regional airports, low hassle, and maximum enjoyment without pushing limits for the sake of bragging rights. For pilots who want to go far, carry enough, and fly efficiently, the Panthera finds its niche perfectly. Just when it seemed the Panthera might finally see the light of day, everything changed. In 2022, Textron swooped in and acquired Pipistrel, folding the Slovenian innovator into a new division called Textron eAviation. The public message was all about the future, electric and hybrid aircraft. That's what Textron really wanted. The certified Valus Electro was the crown jewel, proof that sustainable aviation could work. For the Panthera, this was a double-edged sword. Suddenly, a small, nimble team used to fast decisions was now a node inside a $14 billion corporation. Every choice, every design tweak, every testing schedule had to filter through layers of bureaucracy. Funding wasn't guaranteed anymore. The Panthera had to compete for attention and dollars with electric and hybrid projects that fit Textron's public narrative. The new 2024 ESA certification target came and went quietly. By early 2025, Textron had stopped providing any public timeline updates. Pilots watching from the outside could see the plane flying beautifully in ongoing test flights, with structural checks continuing, but there was no marketing push, no production ramp, and no excitement-building announcements. The Panthera wasn't dead, it was just no longer a priority. A perfectly capable, modern aircraft had been relegated to a slow-motion certification program, waiting for attention and funding that might never fully arrive. Inside the corporation, resources flowed to projects executives could show off: green pilots, hybrid demonstrators, and electric proofs of concept. Meanwhile, the piston-powered Panthera, the plane real people could actually buy, sat in limbo, a victim of strategic realignment and corporate focus. The speed, efficiency, and potential that made pilots' hearts race were now just quietly demonstrated in a corner, waiting for the day someone would push it to the front again. And this part explains a lot. Textron has a long, brutal history of cutting programs that don't fit the numbers, no matter how brilliant the design. Look at the Cessna Citation Columbus, planned as a long-range business jet. Orders vanished after the 2009 recession, and Textron walked away. The Skycatcher was a low-cost trainer meant to democratize flying. Overhyped, over-budget, and gone by 2014. The TTX, a sleek, fast composite evolution of the Columbia 400, didn't have the market, and production quietly stopped. Even experimental or niche successes weren't safe. The Scorpion light attack jet flew, performed, and wowed observers. But when customers didn't materialize, Textron killed it. Citation Mustang, Citation X Plus, Sovereign Plus, Hemisphere. Hawker 4000. Patterns clear. If the numbers don't justify a program, it ends. The Panthera fits that profile perfectly. A low-volume piston plane, expensive to certify, with limited sales potential compared to jets, King Airs, or hybrid electric projects. Beautiful, capable, loved by pilots. But in Textron's disciplined, pragmatic corporate world, that's exactly the type of program that gets relegated, paused, or quietly shelved. And here's the big what if. Had Pipistrel remained independent, the Panthera might have been flying with at least a limited ESO approval by 2020 or 2021. Decisions could have stayed fast, driven by engineers rather than layers of corporate bureaucracy. Agility would have allowed them to pivot between test cards, tweak designs on the fly, and steadily move forward even when setbacks hit. Of course, independence comes with trade-offs. Funding is limited, certification is expensive, and any single engineering hurdle could stall the program. But the passion-driven approach, the obsession with making something elegant, efficient, and pilot-friendly, might have outweighed those risks. Pipistrel had the focus, the vision, and the technical know-how. Momentum might have been slow but steady, with every flight inching closer to buyers taking delivery and experiencing what a modern, efficient piston tourer could really be.
Roger, continue.
Speed is okay? Yep, it is.
Park clear, touch and go runway 33, headwind 4 knots.
Clear, touch and go runway 33, 4 knots. Okay, idle. And we land with the raised nose. Okay, and full. Right rudder at full power.
Even in limbo, the Panthera captures imaginations. Pilots love it for raw efficiency without the turbo headaches, for its modern carbon composite look, and for sailplane-influenced aerodynamics that make it feel alive in the air. It burns less fuel, cruises fast, and performs beautifully at altitudes without oxygen. Exactly the sweet spot for regional touring. Beyond numbers, it's about what general aviation actually needs: speed, efficiency, and elegance in one package. There's also an emotional pull. The Underdog story, a small Slovenian company building a plane that could rival the Cirrus SR22. People don't just see a machine. They see potential, a glimpse of a different, smarter way to fly. That's why pilots still dream about it, even if corporate realities have slowed its path. The Panthera isn't just another composite single. It's a glimpse of what efficient piston aviation could look like if business realities didn't interfere. It flies, it performs, and pilots want it. The real question isn't whether it works, it's whether corporate priorities will ever let it live.